to the traditions of Paine, Jefferson, Lincoln, as the communists say.
The problem developed at a time of great crisis and turmoil, and nobody was paying much attention to issues like domestic communism.
Beginning in the late 1930s, Democratic Congressman Martin Dies of Texas chaired the House Committee on Un-American Activities. Separately, Attorney General Francis Biddle was busy compiling a list of traitors working for the government. Ex-communist Whittaker Chambers came forward to A.A. Burley, Assistant Secretary of the State. Chambers explained how he was able to secure a government position and outed other prominent spies in the administration.
In which people like Alger Hiss and Harry Dexter White and Lachlan Curry, all of whom were Soviet agents, got into the federal government. And the problem at that time was very substantial.
After Hitler and the Nazis signed a pact in 1939, critics of the U.S. Communist Party say its intentions became clear. The U.S. and Britain were bad. The Soviets and Nazi Germany were good. In 1941, when Germany invaded Russia, the party's message changed. Hiding behind FDR's policy of victory for America, even more communists were able to convince the country of their loyalty.
The Soviets were our allies during World War II. Not only were communists permitted into the government, in some cases they were actively recruited into the government, so a substantial problem became a massive problem.
4 years later, when President Truman moved into the Oval Office, relations with the Russians started to sour. This was the same year spy Elizabeth Bentley broke ties with the Soviets and told her story to the FBI.
And there was a very systematic cover-up going on to prevent the American people from knowing the degree of communist penetration of the government.
3 years later, both Bentley and Chambers testified before a congressional committee about communist infiltration.
In such a serious charge as this, it seems to me we should be getting after the question of my record. What do people with whom I work closely and intimately think of me?
In the court of public opinion, Hiss emerged as the face of communism. He was convicted in 1950 for perjury after he denied giving documents to Chambers. Later that year, it was Republican Senator Joe McCarthy who shined a spotlight on the Communist Party again. He claimed he had yet another list of cases showing betrayal within the U.S. government. McCarthy later led a Senate committee investigation into inefficiencies in the government. Critics accused him of falsely identifying communists and smearing their names. McCarthy was eventually censured by the Senate in 1954. That same year, the U.S. became concerned about the domino theory, that if one country fell to communism, so would others. Kind of feels like that now, doesn't it? To help protect itself from a communist insurgency, America entered into the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, an organization that eventually broke up in 1977. It took another 12 years for the communist regimes to fall in Europe, when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. Critics and partisan hacks love to brush off claims of communism or socialism as fear-mongering. But is it? Is brush off of fascism fear-mongering? Well, let's see where we are, what direction we're headed. Here we are again. These are the tracks. This was freedom. There was small government and anarchy possible here. Here there's communism and fascism. Coughlin was down here in fascism. And FDR was surrounded by people, and I'll show you in a minute, surrounded by people who were communists. In the 1930s, the CIO, the union, actively recruited communists to join their ranks, actively. Before long, the CIO controlled unions, and it had about 2 million members. By 1950, they turned on those communists and ousted the unions that were dominated by communist leaders. In the 1990s, however, they voted unanimously to remove the anti-communist clause from their constitution. Maybe it was because everybody thought communism was dead. The effort, however, was led by John Sweeney. He is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. It's interesting how progressives and communists and everybody else just changed the name. He was the president of the AFL-CIO from 1995 until last year. He also started the Union Summer Intern Program. This was great. This was a crash course on achieving social justice and economic justice through community organizing, and using class warfare ideas and tactics. Question: why would you need to repeal this old law in your bylaws of your union, unless there was some new demand or desire for communists to join your ranks? Now let me take you to California. In 2008, the state Senate passed SB 1322. This bill, amazingly, allowed communists to teach in schools, to become school teachers in California. Oh, and public employees also would no longer have to take an oath of office, which reads in part, "I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I do further swear or affirm that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that now advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of the State of California by force or violence." Why would you want people to stop taking that oath? Who wouldn't want that taken, especially by teachers, other than maybe people who are what? Looking for social justice? Here's how Arnold Schwarzenegger responded when the bill came to his desk. I bet you had no idea which way he would go on this one. But he said, quote, "I see no compelling reason to change the law that maintains our responsibility to ensure that public resources are not used for purposes of overthrowing the U.S. or state government or for communist activities. For those reasons, I'm unable to sign this bill." Even Arnold Schwarzenegger would not go for this. Maybe it was his time in Austria with his family. How did it make it all the way to his desk? In a completely unrelated story, do you know who the top political spender was in California last year? Who's the group that's dumping the most lobbying money into swaying politicians? The group that didn't want anybody to have to take an oath to protect the Constitution, or say that you're not involved in any group that wants to overthrow the United States of America. Yes, the unions. The teachers' unions. They spent $211.8 million. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. It has nothing to do with communism or social justice. If you don't want to repeat the past, you have to know about the past. In the 1930s, FDR had all these radical influences around him. And when anybody brought him up, it was always brushed aside. Oh, whatever, that's crazy talk. No, no, no. But when the Venona papers were finally made public back in 1995, that's the UK and the United States, it went through all the old KGB wires and transcripts. It revealed that there were communist influences directly in the White House that directly impacted FDR's policies, even his foreign policy decision-making. We're going to get much deeper into this in a new documentary that's going to be out on the 24th of this month. It's called Doomed to Repeat. It's for Insider Extreme subscribers. That is a new element of my website. It's the premium side of the website, and there's just a lot of great stuff there. Please sign up. Go check it out now at glennbeck.com. But when you see the parallels between now and then, you will see our future if we don't change our course. And a programming note. There's a new advisor to President Obama who fits nicely in this group. Oh, he loves Marx. I'll introduce him to you on Monday. Because, see, it's important that we know who these people are and we know what the influences are. Otherwise, we'll be doomed to repeat. Back in a minute. I have to show you there's a game. This is the kind of jobs that they were creating in the 1930s. The game of prosperity. Why did we last so long in the Great Depression? Because this was a game. This is how we created jobs. And if you look, you had to go with a spinner and you move these little guys above around the board, but you have to go back if you were hoarding. If you were buying American products, you could advance. If you broke a code rule to the government, you go back. Full support of the code of FDR, you could advance. It was a nightmare. Tomorrow, the one-year anniversary of the 9/12 Project special show. We'll see you there.